Now let's begin. The December snow fell in thick curtains outside the small apartment window, each flake a silent witness to Ian McConnell's slow-burning humiliation. He sat cross-legged on the floor with Tyler, his 7-year-old son, building a Lego spaceship while Lydia, his wife, packed designer suitcases for their annual Christmas pilgrimage to her sister's house. "Make sure you pack Tyler's nice clothes," Lydia called from the bedroom, her voice carrying that particular edge it always took on before family gatherings. "Mindy's influencer friends will be there. Last year your jeans were embarrassing." Ian said nothing. 5 years of marriage to Lydia Hayden McConnell had taught him the futility of arguing about her family. He'd fallen in love with her brilliance. She was a successful child psychologist with her own practice, published articles in major journals, regular appearances on morning talk shows discussing healthy parenting techniques. What he hadn't understood then was that her professional compassion had limits, boundaries that ended precisely at her own family's approval. "Dad, will there be other kids?" Tyler asked, his small fingers struggling with a particularly stubborn Lego connection. "Your cousins will be there, buddy." Ian helped him snap the piece into place. "Maya and Josh." Tyler's face fell slightly. At 7, he was already learning the hierarchy. Mindy Hayden Ibarra's children attended a private Montessori school in Connecticut, spoke conversational Mandarin, and had a social media following of their own through their mother's wildly popular parenting platform, the Hayden Home. Tyler attended public school in Queens and struggled with reading. The comparison was never explicit, but it hung in every room like smoke. Ian McConnell had been documenting reality for 15 years, ever since he dropped out of NYU Film School to work as a production assistant on nature documentaries. He'd worked his way up to directing his own projects, small, important films about wildlife conservation and environmental activism. He'd won a regional Emmy for a documentary about the Hudson River cleanup. That was where he'd met Lydia at a fundraiser screening. She'd been impressed by his passion, his artistic vision. Her family had been less impressed. Gerald and Patricia Hayden owned a chain of luxury car dealerships across the tri-state area. Their daughters had been raised in Greenwich, Connecticut, with tennis lessons and debutante balls. Mindy, the eldest, had married Greg Ibarra, a vice president at a pharmaceutical company. She'd transformed her life into content. Every perfectly plated meal, every color-coordinated family photo, every authentic moment, carefully staged and filtered. 2 million Instagram followers. A best-selling book called Raising Radiance. Sponsorship deals with organic baby food companies, luxury strollers, educational toy brands. Then there was Lydia, the younger daughter, who'd become a child psychologist partly to understand her own family dynamics and partly to forge her own identity. She'd married Ian, the struggling documentarian with a studio apartment and student loans, and her parents had never quite forgiven her. "I'm just saying." Lydia emerged from the bedroom with an armful of Tyler's clothes. "Maybe we could make more of an effort this year. Dad's been hinting about investing in one of your documentary projects." This was the dance. The carrot and the stick. Gerald Hayden's money always dangling just out of reach, contingent on Ian becoming someone else. Someone more suitable. "I submitted 3 grant applications last month," Ian said evenly, clicking another Lego piece into place. "The Sundance Documentary Fund, the ITVS, and the Catapult Film Fund." "That's great, honey, but you've been submitting to those for years." Lydia's tone was gentle, which somehow made it worse. "Dad could write a check tomorrow. All he wants is to see you more engaged with the family business. Just some consulting on their marketing videos. Nothing that would compromise your artistic integrity." Artistic integrity. She made it sound quaint, like a child's belief in Santa Claus. Tyler held up the completed spaceship. "Look, Dad, it's done." "That's amazing, buddy." Ian pulled his son into a hug, breathing in the apple-scented shampoo in his hair. "You're getting so good at these." Mindy's kids built an entire Lego city, Lydia murmured, folding Tyler's shirts. She posted a time-lapse video. 15 million views. Ian's jaw tightened. He stood, lifting Tyler with him. "Come on, astronaut. Let's get you ready for bed. We've got a long drive tomorrow." As he carried Tyler to the bathroom for teeth brushing, Ian caught his reflection in the hallway mirror. 37 years old, and he looked tired. The gray was coming in at his temples, worry lines etched around his eyes. He saw his father's face sometimes. Michael McConnell, who'd worked as a union electrician for 40 years and died of a heart attack at 59, 3 months before Tyler was born. His mother had passed when Ian was in college. No safety net, no family money, just talent and stubbornness. Dad, Tyler's voice was small as Ian helped him into his pajamas. Do Maya and Josh not like me? Ian sat on the edge of the bed, his heart cracking. Why would you think that? Last Christmas, Maya said I talk weird because I can't read big words yet. And Josh said my toys were cheap. Your toys aren't cheap. Ian kept his voice steady. And everyone learns to read at their own pace. You're doing great in school. Aunt Mindy said I should try harder. Ian's hands curled into fists on his knees. He forced them to relax. Aunt Mindy doesn't know you like I know you. You're smart and kind and creative. That's what matters. Tyler considered this, then nodded. Okay, Dad. After Tyler fell asleep, Ian returned to the living room where Lydia was watching a replay of her own appearance on a morning show from last month, taking notes. She did this sometimes, analyzing her performance, critiquing her word choices. I was thinking, she said without looking up, maybe we could talk to Mindy about some social media opportunities for Tyler. Not full content, just appearances in her posts. The exposure could lead to modeling opportunities, maybe educational apps. Maya and Josh have college funds completely funded by their social media earnings. Tyler is 7. Maya and Josh started at 5. Ian walked to the window, staring out at the snow-covered street. A homeless man was setting up for the night in the doorway of the closed bodega across the street. Ian had given him a blanket and some food last week. They'd talked for 20 minutes about the man's 3 daughters, who didn't call anymore. I don't want Tyler's childhood sold for content, Ian said quietly. That's privileged of you, considering you can't afford to send him to a decent school. The words hung in the air between them. This was new territory. Lydia had never been quite this direct before. The mask was slipping. His school is fine. Fine. Lydia closed her laptop. Fine is what people settle for, Ian. I didn't settle for fine when I built my practice. Mindy didn't settle for fine when she built her brand. But you're content with fine, and you're teaching Tyler to be content with it too. Ian turned to face his wife. In the lamplight, she looked like a stranger. Or maybe he was finally seeing her clearly. What happened to you? He asked. The woman I married believed children needed presents, not presents. You wrote an entire thesis on the damage of performative parenting. I evolved, Lydia said coldly. Maybe you should try it. The drive to Connecticut was 3 hours of tense silence. Tyler asleep in the back seat with his headphones on, playing a game on Ian's old iPad. The Hayden family estate sprawled across 5 acres in Greenwich, a colonial mansion that had been featured in design magazines. Mindy's black Range Rover was already in the driveway, along with her parents' matching Mercedes. As they pulled up, Ian saw Mindy posing on the front steps, her phone mounted on a gimbal, her 2 children arranged perfectly on either side of her in matching red velvet outfits. She was recording. Remember, Lydia said as she touched up her lipstick in the visor mirror, be nice. It's Christmas. Ian had brought his professional camera, a Sony FX6 he'd saved 2 years to buy. He always brought it to family gatherings, ostensibly to capture memories. What he'd actually been doing, for the past 2 Christmases, was documenting the subtle erosion of his son's self-esteem. Last Christmas, Mindy laughing as Tyler struggled to read a card aloud. Maybe next year, sweetie. The Christmas before, Greg Ibarra asking Ian when he was going to get a real job, while the family nodded along. Thanksgiving, Patricia Hayden suggesting Tyler might need special help because he was behind Mindy's children developmentally. Ian had hours of footage, carefully cataloged and backed up. He told himself it was insurance, though against what, he couldn't say. He just knew, with a documentarian's instinct, that reality needed recording. The house smelled of cinnamon and pine. A professionally decorated tree dominated the foyer, presents wrapped in coordinated paper stacked beneath it. Mindy descended on them immediately, phone still in hand. Lydia, Ian, and little Tyler. She air-kissed Lydia's cheeks, briefly hugged Ian, then crouched to Tyler's level. Say hi to Aunt Mindy's followers, sweetie. Tyler froze as the camera pointed at him. Hi, he whispered. Louder, honey. Big smile. Mindy. Ian stepped between his son and the phone. Maybe give him a minute to settle in. Oh, Ian. Mindy's laugh was practiced, musical. You're so protective. It's sweet. But children need to learn confidence in front of cameras. It's an essential skill now. She stood, already pivoting to Lydia. Come, I have to show you the new meditation room. It's going viral. The design team outdid themselves. As the sisters disappeared deeper into the house, Greg Ibarra emerged from what Gerald Hayden called the library, but was really a room lined with leather-bound books never read and crystal decanters of expensive scotch. Ian, good to see you. Greg's handshake was firm, performative. How's the documentary business? Steady, Ian lied. Still chasing those grants, huh? You know, we're always looking for internal communications people at the company. 6 figures, benefits, stock options. I could put in a word. I appreciate it, Greg, but I'm committed to my work. Right. The artistic path. Greg clapped him on the shoulder. Well, when you're ready to provide for your family properly, let me know. Tyler tugged on Ian's sleeve. Dad, can I go play with Maya and Josh? Of course, buddy. He watched Tyler trudge toward the sound of children's voices in the sunroom, his small shoulders already hunched in anticipation of rejection. Ian's hand drifted to the camera bag slung over his shoulder. Patricia Hayden materialized like a perfumed ghost. Ian, darling. Still lugging that camera around. Force of habit. Well, we're having professional photos done tomorrow, so try to stay out of those shots. She air-kissed the space near his ear. And do wear something presentable. Last year's Christmas card was, well, we had to crop you out of most of them. The first day passed in a blur of microaggressions, each one small enough to seem petty if called out, but cumulatively crushing. Ian watched Tyler try to join a board game with Maya and Josh, only to be told there were only 3 players allowed. He watched Mindy serve dinner on her Royal Copenhagen china, placing Tyler at the kids' table in the kitchen while Maya and Josh ate in the dining room because they were better with formal manners. He recorded it all, casually, claiming he was capturing holiday memories. That night, as he lay next to Lydia in the guest room, she whispered, "You were quiet today. Just tired. Dad wants to talk to you tomorrow about the consulting thing. Please, Ian, just hear him out." Okay. But he already knew what he'd say. The same thing he always said. And he knew what would happen after: Lydia's disappointment, her family's disdain, and Tyler caught in the middle, learning that his father's integrity meant his inferiority. Christmas morning arrived with the artificial cheer of a lifestyle magazine spread. The presents were opened in shifts, filmed extensively by Mindy for content. Maya and Josh received iPads, designer clothes, a vacation to Disney World. Tyler received educational workbooks and a globe from Patricia, who announced loudly, he needs to improve his geography. From his parents, Tyler got a second-hand bicycle that Ian had repaired himself, painted blue, with streamers on the handlebars. Tyler's eyes lit up, but Mindy's laugh cut through his joy. How rustic, she said, phone camera capturing everything. Very vintage aesthetic. That'll play well with the minimalist parenting crowd. Lydia shot Ian a look that said, "See what your pride costs us?" The breaking point came at Christmas dinner. The long mahogany table had been set with military precision. Crystal, silver, china that cost more than Ian's monthly rent. Mindy had hired a photographer to capture the natural family moments. A young woman who circled the table with a professional camera while Ian's Sony stayed in his bag. Until it didn't. Something made him retrieve it, some instinct. He set it up on a bookshelf behind his seat, angled to capture the full table, and pressed record. The red light blinked once, then disappeared into standby mode. To anyone glancing over, it looked off. They were halfway through the main course, a catered feast from some farm-to-table restaurant Mindy had partnerships with, when Tyler reached for a bread roll and knocked over his water glass. Not dramatically, just the small spill of a 7-year-old's coordination. Water pooled on the expensive tablecloth. "Tyler." Lydia's voice was sharp. I'm sorry. Tyler's eyes filled with tears as he grabbed his napkin, trying to soak up the water. For heaven's sake. Patricia stood, dabbing at the tablecloth with her own napkin. This is custom Italian linen. He's just a child, Mother. Lydia's defense was half-hearted, already apologetic. A child who needs to learn table manners, Mindy said, and Ian heard something in her voice that made his spine straighten. A cruelty, barely masked. Maya and Josh knew how to dine properly by age 5. Tyler was crying now, silently, his small shoulders shaking. It's just water, Ian said quietly. It'll dry. It's not about the water, Ian. Greg Ibarra set down his wine glass with deliberate precision. It's about respect. Teaching children consequences. He's 7 years old. Accidents happen. Accidents happen because he's not being taught properly. This from Gerald Hayden, patriarch and judge. The boy needs structure. Discipline. Maybe if he wasn't coddled, Patricia began. He's not being coddled. Ian's voice was level, but his hands were fists beneath the table. He's being treated like a child. A child who ruins Christmas dinner. Mindy stood, and Ian saw it then, the performance shifting, the content creator sensing an opportunity. Her phone was already in her hand, positioned for what would look like a casual story update, but was angled perfectly to capture the table. You know what? Maybe Tyler needs a reminder about gratitude. Mindy, Lydia started, but stopped when her sister held up a hand. No, Lydia. You've been too soft on this. We all have. Mindy walked to the sideboard where Biscuit, her designer French bulldog, was eating from a crystal bowl, not a dog bowl, but actual Baccarat crystal. Tyler, come here. Tyler looked at his father, tears streaming down his face. Mindy, what are you doing? Ian stood, teaching a lesson about privilege. Mindy picked up the dog's bowl, half full of organic, grass-fed beef that cost more per pound than Ian's weekly grocery budget. Tyler, you want to act like you don't appreciate sitting at this table? Fine. You can eat from here. The table went silent. That's enough. Ian moved toward his son. Sit down, Ian. This from Lydia, and the betrayal was a knife between his ribs. Excuse me. Just let Mindy handle this. Tyler needs to learn. Learn what? To be humiliated. To be humble. Mindy set the dog bowl on the floor. Her phone was still recording, but Ian understood now. This wouldn't be posted. This was control, private cruelty. Tyler, come here. Now. The 7-year-old looked at his mother, who wouldn't meet his eyes. At his father, who was already moving. But Greg Ibarra was faster, stepping in front of Ian. Let the boy learn his lesson, Greg said quietly. And Tyler, trained by years of seeking approval from these people, walked slowly to where his aunt stood. He knelt by the dog bowl. Good boy, Mindy said, and the phrase would haunt Ian forever. The same thing she said to Biscuit. Now eat. Show us you're grateful for this food, for this family, for everything you've been given despite your limitations. Tyler picked up a piece of beef with his small fingers. Wait. Patricia Hayden's voice cut across the room. No hands. Like Biscuit. And Lydia, God help him, Lydia, nodded. Tyler looked at his father one more time, and Ian saw it all in that look. The desperate need for rescue, the crushing weight of rejection, the death of innocence. He saw his son's soul breaking in real time. Tyler leaned down and ate from the dog bowl. The table watched. Mindy filmed. Lydia looked away. Gerald Hayden nodded approval. Patricia smiled. Greg Ibarra smirked. Maya and Josh giggled from where they'd been told to watch from the doorway. And Ian McConnell stood frozen, every instinct screaming at him to grab his son and run, but his body locked by the terrible calculus of consequences. If he made a scene, Lydia would divorce him. Her family had money for lawyers. He had debt. They'd take Tyler, claim Ian was unstable, violent. Lydia would testify against him. He could see it in her face, the choice she'd already made between her son and her family's approval. So he did something else. He recorded everything. His professional camera had been running the whole time, but now Ian pulled out his phone and, with shaking hands, opened the camera app. He held it low, casual, as if checking a message. But the lens captured Tyler's humiliation in 4K, captured the adults' faces, captured Mindy's performative cruelty and Lydia's complicity. When Tyler finally sat back, his face streaked with tears and shame, Mindy patted his head. There. Now you understand. You don't deserve to sit at this table until you learn to behave properly. She turned to the adults, triumphant. Honestly, Lydia, you've been too lenient. Children need boundaries. Absolutely, Patricia agreed. This is good parenting. Lydia nodded, and Ian watched his marriage disintegrate. Tyler, go wash up, Ian said softly. I'll meet you upstairs. As Tyler fled the room, Ian began collecting their things with mechanical precision. Camera first, back into the bag. Phone into his pocket. Jacket from the hall closet. Where are you going? Lydia's voice was uncertain now, sensing something. Home. Ian, don't be dramatic. Tyler's fine. He's learning. He's learning that the people who should protect him won't. Ian looked at his wife, and she flinched from what she saw in his eyes. We're leaving. You're overreacting, Gerald Hayden said. The boy needed discipline. My son, Ian said slowly, just ate from a dog bowl while his mother watched. While you all watched. While you approved. And you think I'm overreacting? It was a lesson in humility, Mindy said, but her confidence was wavering. It was abuse. Ian shouldered his camera bag. And I recorded every second. The table went very quiet. You wouldn't. Lydia's face had gone pale. I already have. Goodbye, Lydia. My lawyer will be in touch. He found Tyler in the bathroom, sobbing so hard he was nearly hyperventilating. Ian gathered his son into his arms and carried him to the car, ignoring the voices calling after him, the threats and justifications and demands to come back and stop being ridiculous. As he buckled Tyler into the back seat and started the engine, Lydia appeared in the doorway, silhouetted by the house's warm light. For a moment, Ian thought she might run to the car, might choose them. But she just stood there, and Ian drove away. The 3-hour drive back to Queens was silent except for Tyler's occasional shuddering breaths. Ian stopped once at a rest stop, bought his son hot chocolate and chicken nuggets, and watched him eat at a plastic table under fluorescent lights. This was rock bottom, he thought. This was the moment everything changed. He was wrong. It got worse before it got better. But as Tyler finally fell asleep in the car, still an hour from home, Ian made a promise. He would make them pay. All of them. Not with violence or rage, but with the truth, weaponized and precisely deployed. He was a documentarian. He knew the power of the right story, told to the right audience, at the right time. And he had 72 hours of footage. The apartment felt different when they returned that night, almost midnight. Tyler went straight to bed without brushing his teeth, still wearing his Christmas clothes. Ian sat in the dark living room, his laptop open, downloading the footage from his camera and phone. 3 angles of the same atrocity. Crystal clear. Undeniable. His phone buzzed. Lydia, you kidnapped our son. I'm calling the police. He typed back. I'm his father. I removed him from an abusive situation. Call whoever you want. 3 minutes later, you're being insane. It was just discipline. You're twisting this into something it's not. Ian didn't respond. Instead, he opened his editing software and began cutting together the footage. Tyler knocking over water. The family's disproportionate reaction. Mindy fetching the dog bowl. The command to eat. Tyler's compliance. The family's approval. For minutes and 37 seconds of pure, damning truth. He exported 3 versions. One with the raw audio, one with subtitles for clarity, and one with a simple text overlay he'd add later. Then he backed everything up to 3 separate cloud services and an external hard drive. His phone rang. Lydia. He let it go to voicemail. Her voice came through, tight and angry. Ian, come on. You can't just take Tyler and leave. Mom's freaking out, Mindy's crying. You're making this into some huge thing when it was just, we were trying to teach him. Please come back. We'll talk about this like adults. Delete. Next call, different tone. Ian, please. I'm sorry, okay? Maybe we went too far. Just come back and we'll figure this out. Tyler needs stability, and you're scaring him with this dramatic exit. The gaslighting was almost impressive. Another text, this time from a number he didn't recognize. This is Gregory Ibarra. Whatever you think you're doing, consider the consequences. Lydia has rights as a mother. You have nothing, no money, no lawyer, no case. Bring Tyler back, or this gets ugly. Ian smiled, cold and mirthless. They thought he was operating on emotion. They didn't understand that he'd been preparing for this moment, subconsciously, for years. Over the next 2 days, while Lydia's calls became increasingly frantic and threatening, Ian did 3 things. First, he took Tyler to a pediatric psychologist, not one of Lydia's colleagues, but a professional at a nonprofit clinic who specialized in trauma. He showed her the footage. She documented Tyler's symptoms: anxiety, regression, persistent fear responses. She wrote a detailed report that used words like emotional abuse, humiliation, and psychological harm. Second, he visited a lawyer, not a family law attorney from the Yellow Pages, but someone he'd worked with on a documentary 3 years ago about wrongful convictions. Sarah Chun had pivoted from public defense to family law, and she owed him a favor. He'd gotten her late father's story into a film that helped overturn another wrongful conviction. Sarah watched the footage once. Then she watched it again. Jesus Christ, she said quietly. You have full custody papers ready to file. Can you prepare them? Ian, I'll do you one better. I'll file for emergency custody, full custody, and a restraining order against Lydia and her entire family. This is textbook child abuse. How much will it cost? For this? Nothing. This is the kind of case that makes precedent. Sarah's eyes were hard. I've been looking for a flagship custody case to establish emotional abuse standards. Your son will be safe, I promise you. Third, and most importantly, Ian did his research. 20 hours of deep investigation into Mindy Hayden Ibarra's empire revealed cracks in the foundation. He found disgruntled former employees of the Hayden home, brand willing to talk about staged content, faked candid moments, and children's tears edited out of final posts. He found parents from Maya and Josh's school who whispered about the Ibarra children's behavioral problems, the therapy they were in, the desperation behind the perfect facade. He discovered that Mindy's best-selling book, Raising Radiance, had entire sections plagiarized from smaller parenting blogs, content stolen from mothers without platforms or lawyers, their words repackaged and sold for profit. He found sponsors who'd been misled about engagement numbers, partnerships secured through falsified analytics. And Lydia, his wife, the child psychologist who preached healthy boundaries. He found her professional complaints. 3 parents had filed grievances with the state licensing board over the past 2 years, claiming she betrayed confidentiality, that she'd used their children's case studies in her media appearances without consent, that her advice had been reckless and harmful. The complaints had been dismissed due to lack of evidence and expensive lawyers. But Ian knew where evidence could be found. On the 3rd day after Christmas, December 28th, Ian wrote an email. Not one email. 7. The first went to the New York State Board of Psychology, attaching the video evidence of Lydia's failure to protect her own child, along with contact information for Tyler's new therapist and documentation of Lydia's previous complaints. The second went to every major sponsor of the Hayden home, 23 companies in total, from organic baby food to luxury strollers. The subject line, the truth behind the Hayden home, child abuse and content fraud. The body contained the footage, the plagiarism evidence, and testimonials from former employees Ian had carefully documented. The third went to the websites that had published think pieces praising Mindy's parenting philosophy, offering them an exclusive, the truth behind the content. The fourth went to Maya and Josh's private school administration, flagging the children's welfare concerns and their mother's exploitation of them for commercial purposes. The fifth went to the New York Times, Washington Post, and Associated Press tip lines. Child influencer abuse was already a growing story. Ian was handing them a perfect case study. The sixth went to Greg Ibarra's company board of directors and HR department, detailing his complicity in child abuse and asking how the company felt about a senior executive with such public moral failings. The seventh went to Gerald and Patricia Hayden's country club, their church, and the boards of every charity they sat on. In Greenwich society, reputation was currency. Ian was about to bankrupt them. Every email was professional, factual, devastating. Every attachment was meticulously labeled. Every claim was backed by documentation. He sent them all at 9:47 a.m., then closed his laptop and made Tyler pancakes. Dad, Tyler pushed his food around his plate. Is Mom coming to get me? Not today, buddy. Is she mad at me? Because of the water? Ian knelt beside his son's chair, taking his small hands. Tyler, listen to me. Nothing that happened was your fault. Nothing. You did nothing wrong. You are perfect exactly as you are, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't protect you better. You did protect me. You took me home. I should have stopped them before it started. Then they would have hated you more. The wisdom of 7-year-olds. Tyler understood the dynamics better than Ian had given him credit for. Well, they're going to hate me a lot now, Ian said. Is that okay with you? Tyler considered this seriously, then nodded. Yeah, they're mean, Dad. All of them. Yeah, buddy. They are. The first call came at 11:23 a.m. Greg Ibarra, his voice shaking with rage. What the fuck did you do? I just got called into an emergency board meeting. They have a video. Of you endorsing child abuse? Yeah, I sent that. You motherfucker, I will destroy you. I will take everything. You have nothing to take, Greg. I own nothing. I am nothing, remember? You've been telling me that for 5 years. Turns out, having nothing means having nothing to lose. Mindy's lawyers are going to be very busy defending her against fraud charges. Talk soon. Ian hung up and blocked the number. The calls multiplied. Lydia, sobbing. Ian, please, they're talking about revoking my license. Please tell them it was a misunderstanding. Please. Mindy, shrill. You've ruined everything. Everything. Years of work, destroyed by one petty little man who can't handle discipline. Patricia Hayden, imperious. This is extortion. We will sue you for every penny. You mean every penny I don't have? Good luck. Gerald Hayden tried reason. Ian, son, let's talk about this. What do you want? Money? We can make this go away. My son's dignity isn't for sale. By 3 p.m., the story had broken online. Not in major outlets yet, but in parenting blogs and social media watchdog accounts. Screenshots of Mindy's deleted posts, contrasted with employee testimonials. The plagiarism evidence. And buried in the threads, for those who looked hard enough, whispers of a video, something damning, something that explained why the Hayden home's Instagram had suddenly gone dark. By 5 p.m., Mindy's biggest sponsor, a organic formula company, had pulled out, issuing a statement about disturbing allegations and zero tolerance for child endangerment. By 8 p.m., four more sponsors had followed. By midnight, Mindy's Instagram account was restricted, her blue verification check gone, her comments flooded with outrage. Ian sat in the dark apartment, Tyler asleep in his room, and watched the world he'd set in motion spiral beyond his control. There was no satisfaction in it, not yet. Just exhaustion and the cold certainty that he'd crossed a line there was no coming back from. His phone buzzed one more time. Sarah Chun, his lawyer, emergency custody granted. Court date in 2 weeks for permanent custody hearing. Restraining order approved. Lydia and her family must stay 500 feet from you and Tyler. How are you holding up? Fine, he typed back. Is this enough? For custody? More than enough. For criminal charges against Lydia? We'll see. The DA's office is reviewing. Good. He should have felt victorious. Instead, he felt hollow. He'd spent 5 years being worn down, diminished, convinced he was the problem. And now, in 24 hours, he'd obliterated the people who'd done that to him. But Tyler was safe. That was all that mattered. Except it wasn't over. Not yet. The next morning, Ian woke to trending topics on Twitter. Hashtag Hayden Home was everywhere, the algorithm having caught wind of the implosion. Someone had leaked portions of the video, not the full thing, but enough. Tyler's face was blurred, but the context was clear. A child, forced to eat from a dog's bowl, while adults watched and approved. The internet, for all its flaws, knew how to mobilize rage. By noon, Mindy's book was being pulled from shelves. By 2 p.m., her publisher issued a statement severing ties with her. By 4 p.m., the New York Times posted a breaking story, Instagram's dark side, the fall of parenting influencer Mindy Hayden Ibarra. The article was devastating. They'd interviewed former employees, child psychologists, digital media experts. They'd analyzed Mindy's content with forensic precision, finding patterns of exploitation, emotional manipulation of her own children, and a systematic fraud that had enriched her while endangering vulnerable kids. And buried in paragraph 12, sources indicate that Hayden Ibarra's sister, Dr. Lydia McConnell, a practicing child psychologist, was present during at least one incident of alleged abuse and failed to intervene. Ian's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Mr. McConnell? This is Detective Rebecca Santos with the NYPD Special Victims Unit. We've received your video evidence and would like to interview you and your son about the incident. Would you be available to come in tomorrow? My son is 7. He's already traumatized. We have child specialist interviewers. We'll make it as easy as possible. But if we're going to pursue charges, we need his testimony. Ian looked toward Tyler's room, where his son was building Legos, headphones on, lost in a world of plastic bricks and imagination. I'll think about it. Mr. McConnell, I've watched the video. What happened to your son is a crime. These people should face consequences beyond just social media backlash. They're facing plenty of consequences. Legal consequences. Real accountability. Detective Santos paused. We've also opened an investigation into Dr. McConnell's practice. Multiple former patients have come forward after seeing the news. If there's a pattern of negligence or harm, she could face criminal charges, not just license revocation. What about the others? Mindy, Greg, the grandparents? Child endangerment charges are being considered for all adults present. It's complicated. They're not the parents, and the incident happened in Connecticut, so we're coordinating with law enforcement there. But we're building a case. After she hung up, Ian sat very still. He'd wanted them to pay, wanted justice. But the machinery of justice, once engaged, ground indiscriminately. Lydia could go to prison. Mindy could lose her children. Greg could lose everything. Good, he thought. Then, is it good? His phone buzzed. Lydia's mother, Patricia, you've destroyed this family. I hope you're proud. He typed back, you destroyed this family. I just documented it. But doubt crept in. Tyler would grow up knowing his mother was a criminal. His family was infamous. Every Google search of his name would lead to this story. Ian had protected him from immediate harm. But had he condemned him to a lifetime of infamy? The doorbell rang. Ian checked the peephole. A man in his 60s, expensive overcoat, silver hair. Gerald Hayden. I know there's a restraining order, Gerald called through the door. I'm alone. I just want to talk. Please. Against his better judgment, Ian opened the door, but didn't invite him in. Gerald looked diminished, his country club arrogance replaced by something almost human. That video. It's everywhere. Patricia is having a breakdown. Mindy's in the hospital, exhaustion and dehydration, they said, but really it's a breakdown too. Greg's been suspended from his job pending investigation. And Lydia? He stopped. Lydia's talking about suicide. Ian's blood went cold. Don't put that on me. I'm not. I'm asking you to stop. Please. Haven't we lost enough? Has Tyler lost enough? The boy will be fine. Children are resilient. But you're destroying lives, adult lives, careers, marriages. For what? Revenge. Justice. Those are the same thing, and you know it. Gerald's eyes were red-rimmed. I'm not saying what happened was right, but it was one incident, one mistake. It was the culmination of years of cruelty. Ian's voice was steel. Years of you people treating my son like he was inferior. Years of me watching his light dim because he couldn't meet your impossible standards. This wasn't one incident. This was the moment I finally had evidence. So what do you want? Money? I'll give you whatever you need. Just make this stop. I can't stop it. It's out of my hands now. The internet has it. The police have it. The licensing boards have it. Even if I recanted everything, which I won't, it wouldn't matter. Then what was the point? Gerald's voice broke. If you can't even control it, what was the point of starting it? Ian considered the question. What was the point? Tyler was safe. He'd achieved that with the custody filing. He could have stopped there. But he'd wanted more. He'd wanted them to feel what Tyler felt. Powerless, humiliated, destroyed. The point, Ian said slowly, was that for 5 years, you all made me feel like nothing. Like I was dragging your daughter down, like my son was defective, like my work was a joke and my choices were failures. You did it with smiles and passive aggression and backhanded compliments. You made me doubt myself, doubt my worth, doubt my ability to protect my son. And I let you. So this is about your ego. This is about teaching you that people have value regardless of their bank accounts or social media followers or family pedigree. Tyler has value. I have value. And you, all of you, you're about to learn what it feels like to have that value stripped away. Gerald stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. You've become what you hated. Maybe. Or maybe I've become what I needed to be to protect my son. After Gerald left, Ian stood in his doorway for a long time, watching the street. Snow was falling again, gentle and quiet. Across the street, the homeless man was setting up his cardboard shelter. Ian grabbed his jacket and some food from the kitchen, crossed the street, and sat down next to him. Rough night? The man asked. Rough life? Ian said, handing him a sandwich. They sat in companionable silence, watching the snow accumulate. Eventually the man asked, You're that guy, aren't you? From the video. How? Internet's everywhere, man. Even down here. He gestured to a cracked smartphone. Your kid, the dog bowl. Fucked up. Yeah. You did right, getting him out. Did I do right destroying everyone involved? The man chewed thoughtfully. My daughters won't talk to me because I chose drinking over them. That's on me. Your wife's family chose cruelty over kindness. That's on them. You just made sure there were consequences. Even if those consequences destroy them. Should have thought of that before they destroyed a 7-year-old's spirit. The man looked at Ian directly. Kids, remember. Whatever you did to those people, your boy will remember you chose him. That's what matters. Ian left the man with money, food, and the blanket from his own coat. When he returned to the apartment, Tyler was awake, standing in the doorway of his room. "Where'd you go, Dad?" "Just helping a friend." "The man from across the street?" "Yeah, buddy." Tyler walked over and hugged him. "You're a good dad." Ian held his son and cried for the first time since Christmas. Not from sadness, but from the sheer overwhelming weight of love and responsibility and the knowledge that he'd burned every bridge to keep this boy safe. "I love you, Tyler." "I love you too, Dad." The next week was a whirlwind of legal proceedings, media inquiries, and escalating consequences. Ian kept Tyler sheltered from most of it, but some developments he had to explain. Mindy Hayden Ibarra lost custody of Maya and Josh, pending a full investigation. Greg Ibarra was granted temporary custody, but his own legal troubles were mounting. His company had fired him, citing moral turpitude clauses in his contract. Without his income, and with Mindy's income streams obliterated, they'd had to sell their Greenwich house. Last Ian heard, they were staying with the Haydens, all of them crammed into the family estate like refugees from their own hubris. Lydia's psychology license was suspended. The board had found evidence of ethical violations beyond the Christmas incident, patient confidentiality breaches, inappropriate use of case studies, and a pattern of prioritizing media opportunities over patient care. She faced criminal charges as well: child endangerment, failure to report abuse, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. She tried to call Ian 17 times. He hadn't answered. The custody hearing was scheduled for January 12th. Sarah Chun was confident. "They have nothing," she said during a prep meeting. "Lydia's facing charges. Her family is implicated. Her career is over. Meanwhile, you've been Tyler's primary emotional support. You removed him from an abusive situation, and you've provided stable, loving care. The judge would have to be insane to give her custody. What about visitation? Supervised, maybe, if Tyler wants it. But honestly, Ian, I'd recommend he spend some time in therapy first. Let him process. Let him decide if he wants contact with his mother." That night, Ian asked Tyler the question, "Buddy, do you want to see your mom?" Tyler was quiet for a long time, building a Lego castle with meticulous care. Finally, "Does she want to see me?" "I think so." "Does she think what Aunt Mindy did was wrong?" Ian didn't know how to answer that. He'd seen Lydia's public statements, carefully crafted by lawyers, full of phrases like regrettable incident and misunderstanding, but never actually saying "I was wrong" or "I'm sorry." "I don't know, buddy." "Then no. I don't want to see her." Tyler placed another brick. "She watched them be mean to me and didn't stop them." "You stopped them." "Okay. That's okay. Am I bad for not wanting to see my mom?" "No. You're smart for knowing what you need." The days passed. The media cycle churned through the story and moved on to newer scandals. Mindy's Instagram remained dark. Lydia's practice closed. Greg Ibarra took a job in his father's insurance company in Ohio, a massive step down from pharmaceutical VP. The Haydens sold their country club membership and stopped attending church. Ian got a message from one of the smaller parenting blogs that Mindy had plagiarized from. The writer, a single mother in Iowa, had used the publicity to launch her own book deal. "Thank you," she wrote. "You gave me justice I couldn't get alone." He got messages from other fathers, men who'd been belittled by in-laws, diminished by spouses, told they were inadequate. "You stood up," one wrote. "You showed us it's possible." He got hate mail too. People who thought he'd overreacted, destroyed lives over a single incident, weaponized the internet for petty revenge. "Your son ate from a dog bowl for 2 minutes," one email read. "Their lives are destroyed forever." Was it worth it? Ian didn't know. January 12th arrived with bitter cold and clear skies. The family court building in Manhattan was gray concrete and fluorescent lighting, the waiting room filled with broken families in various stages of dissolution. Lydia arrived with her lawyer, a sharp woman in a severe suit. She looked terrible: weight loss, dark circles, hair pulled back in a messy bun. She saw Ian and Tyler and started toward them. "Please don't," Sarah Chin stepped between them. "The restraining order. I just want to talk to my son. That's not permitted right now." "Tyler, baby, please," Lydia's voice cracked. Tyler pressed closer to Ian, his small hand gripping his father's jacket. "Your Honor," Lydia's lawyer addressed the judge once they were in the courtroom, "my client acknowledges that the incident on Christmas was inappropriate. However, Dr. McConnell is a loving mother who made a single error in judgment during a stressful family gathering. To strip her of custody based on one mistake is disproportionate and harmful to the child, who needs his mother." Saracen stood. Your Honor, the respondent characterizes this as one mistake, but the evidence shows a pattern of emotional neglect and psychological harm. Dr. McConnell not only failed to protect her son from abuse, she actively endorsed it. She told the child to comply with a humiliating and degrading act. This wasn't a lapse in judgment. It was a choice to prioritize her family's approval over her child's well-being. The judge, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and steel in her voice, reviewed the evidence. She watched the video. She read Tyler's therapist's report. She read the licensing board's findings against Lydia. Then she asked to speak to Tyler privately. Ian waited in the hallway, pacing, while his son spent 20 minutes in the judge's chambers. When Tyler emerged, he was holding the judge's hand, and he was smiling. Mr. McConnell, the judge said, your son is remarkably articulate about his feelings and needs. Based on my conversation with him and the evidence presented, I'm granting you full legal and physical custody. Dr. McConnell will be permitted supervised visitation once per month, contingent on her completing a parenting course and continuing therapy. This arrangement will be reviewed in 6 months. Lydia made a sound like a wounded animal. Her lawyer put a hand on her arm, whispered something, but Lydia shook her off. Ian, please. Please don't do this. He's my son too. Ian looked at the woman he'd once loved, now destroyed by her own choices. He felt no satisfaction, no victory, just sadness. You did this, he said quietly. Not me. Outside the courthouse, Saracen shook his hand. Congratulations. You won. Did I? Your son is safe, you have custody, and justice was served. That's winning. Ian looked down at Tyler, who was watching the pigeons on the courthouse steps. Yeah, I guess so. That night, back in their small apartment, Tyler asked, Dad, are we going to be okay? What do you mean, buddy? Without Mom. Without the Haydens. Just us. Ian pulled his son close. We're going to be better than okay. We're going to be great. Promise. Promise. And he meant it. Because Gerald Hayden had been wrong about one thing, Ian wasn't nothing. He was a father, a documentarian, a man with principles and skills and the courage to stand up when it mattered. He'd lost a wife, a family-in-law, and any chance at their money or approval. But he'd gained something more valuable, his son's trust and his own self-respect. The weeks that followed were surprisingly peaceful. Ian threw himself into his work, pitching new documentary ideas with renewed energy. One of his proposals, a film about the dark side of family vlogging and child influencers, got funding from a streaming platform. Apparently, being at the center of a viral controversy had made him a credible voice on the topic. Tyler thrived. Away from the Hayden's constant judgment, he became more confident, more joyful. His reading improved. He made friends at school. His therapist reported that his anxiety symptoms were decreasing. Lydia attended her first supervised visitation in February. It was awkward, tense. Tyler was polite but distant, treating his mother like a stranger. Lydia cried through most of the hour. After, she asked Ian if they could talk. Against his better judgment, he agreed. They sat in a coffee shop while Tyler waited with the court-appointed supervisor. I'm in therapy, Lydia said. Real therapy, not the performance therapy I did before. And I'm realizing, I've been terrible, not just on Christmas, but for years. I let my family's toxicity infect our marriage. I let them treat you and Tyler like you weren't good enough. I became them. Yeah, you did. I'm sorry. She was crying again. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I need you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. Ian sipped his coffee, considering. What do you want from me, Lydia? Nothing. I don't deserve anything. I wanted you to know that you were right. About all of it. And I was wrong. Okay. Can I ask what happened? With my family? I know Mindy lost everything, and my parents are selling the estate, and Greg is in Ohio. But there's more, isn't there? Ian had wondered when this would come up. The investigation expanded. The plagiarism in Mindy's book led to a deeper audit of her finances. Turns out she'd been inflating her engagement numbers to charge sponsors more, which is fraud. She's facing charges. Greg's company is suing him for reputational damage. Your parents' dealerships are under investigation for tax evasion. Something about money laundering through fake sales that got caught when the publicity led to audits. Lydia's face went white. You did all that. I sent one email with evidence of child abuse. Everything else was them. Their own fraud, their own crimes. I just turned on the light. The cockroaches scattered on their own. They'll blame you forever. They already do. I can live with that. Lydia was quiet for a long time. Then, do you think Tyler will ever forgive me? I don't know. That's up to him. Do you forgive me? Ian thought about it. About the years of erosion, the thousand small cruelties, the final betrayal on Christmas. About watching his son eat from a dog bowl while the woman who'd promised to love and protect him nodded approval. No, he said finally. But I don't hate you either. You're Tyler's mother. You'll always be part of his life in some way. But you and me? We're done. I know. She wiped her eyes. For what it's worth, I'm glad he has you. You're a good father, Ian. You always were. I was just too blind to see it. After she left, Ian sat in the coffee shop for a while, watching people pass by outside. A young couple with a baby stroller. An old man with a dog. A teenager on a skateboard. Normal lives, untouched by the kind of drama that had consumed his family. He'd won. His son was safe. Justice had been served. The bad people had faced consequences. So why did he still feel hollow? His phone buzzed. A text from Tyler's therapist. Tyler's doing really well. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. He's healing. That helped. Knowing Tyler was healing made the hollowness bearable. Spring came to Queens with cherry blossoms and warming temperatures. Ian's documentary project moved into production. He interviewed other fathers who'd fought for custody, other children who'd been exploited for content, experts on the psychological damage of performative parenting. Tyler turned 8 with a small party, 6 kids from his class, pizza, a homemade cake, no pressure to perform or be perfect. Ian recorded it, but for personal memories, not content. Lydia's supervised visitations continued monthly. Tyler was slowly warming to her, but it was tentative, fragile. She'd brought him a book, not an educational workbook, just a fun story, and he'd actually smiled. Progress. The legal consequences kept unfolding. Mindy pled guilty to fraud charges and received 3 years probation, community service, and was banned from creating any content featuring minors. Greg's lawsuit from his former company was settled for an undisclosed sum that reportedly wiped out his savings. The Haydens sold their estate at a loss and moved to a modest condo in Stamford, and Lydia lost her license permanently. The board's final ruling cited egregious ethical violations and demonstrable harm to vulnerable clients. She was working as a receptionist at a dental office, the last Ian heard. One Saturday in April, the doorbell rang. Ian opened it to find Mindy standing there, no makeup, jeans and a hoodie, looking nothing like the polished influencer she'd been. You have a restraining order, Ian said. It expired last week. I checked. She held up her phone, showing the court documents. I'm not here to cause trouble. Can we talk? Why? Because I owe you an apology. Ian almost laughed. You owe Tyler an apology. I know, but he won't see me. So I'm apologizing to you. May I come in? Against his better judgment, a pattern with him, Ian let her inside. Tyler was at a friend's house, so they were alone. Mindy sat on the couch, looking around the small apartment. I've never been here before. It's nice. No, it's not. It's small and old, and the radiator sounds like a dying whale. It's honest. She met his eyes. My house was beautiful and fake. Everything was staged. Everything was content. I forgot how to just live. Is this the part where you expect sympathy? No. This is the part where I tell you that you were right, and I was a monster, and I'm sorry. She pulled out her phone and showed him pictures. Maya and Josh, in foster care. I lost them. Greg has temporary custody, but they won't talk to me. They hate me, and they should. Ian felt a twinge of something. Not sympathy, but recognition. They'd both lost their families, albeit in very different ways. I've been in therapy, Mindy continued. Real therapy. And I'm learning that I was basically psychologically abusing my own children for content. The constant filming, the staged authenticity, the pressure to be perfect. I did to them what was done to Tyler, just more gradually. Why are you telling me this? Because I need someone to hear it. And because you're the only one who had the courage to stop it. Everyone else, my family, Greg's family, my fans, they all enabled it. You saw it and you ended it. I didn't end it for your kids. I ended it for mine. I know. But the ripple effect. Other family vloggers are being investigated now. Legislation is being proposed about children in content. You started something bigger than just our family. Ian hadn't thought about it that way. He'd been so focused on Tyler, on justice, on revenge. He hadn't considered that other children might be protected because of what he'd done. "What do you want from me, Mindy?" "Nothing. I just wanted to say thank you." She stood. "And I'm sorry. For everything. Especially for that Christmas. I replay it in my head every day, and I'm horrified by who I was." After she left, Ian sat in the quiet apartment, processing. The monsters were sorry. They'd faced consequences. They'd lost everything. And still, he felt no satisfaction. Just exhaustion and the faint hope that maybe, somehow, everyone involved could eventually heal. That night, Tyler came home full of stories about his friend's new puppy. As Ian listened, he realized something. Tyler barely mentioned the Haydens anymore. The trauma was receding, becoming something managed rather than something defining. "Dad," Tyler asked at bedtime, "are you happy?" "What kind of question is that? You seem sad sometimes. Even when you smile." "Kids saw everything." "I'm working on it, buddy. But having you? That makes me happy." "Good." Tyler snuggled into his pillow. "Because you make me happy too." After Tyler fell asleep, Ian opened his laptop and began editing the final sequence of his documentary. It was called Curated Childhoods: The Hidden Cost of Family Content. It would premiere at Tribeca Film Festival in June. The final scene was Tyler, now, building Legos in their apartment. No performance, no staging, just a kid playing. Ian's voiceover talked about healing, about the importance of letting children be children, about the courage it takes to protect innocence in an age of constant documentation. It was his best work, born from pain, polished by rage, but ultimately about hope. The film won the festival's documentary award. It sold to a major streaming platform. It sparked national conversation about children's digital rights. Legislation was proposed. Lives were changed. And in a small apartment in Queens, a father and son built Lego spaceships and ate pizza and watched movies and just lived, unfilmed, unperfect, free. 3 years later, Tyler was 11 and reading at an advanced level. Lydia had fought her way back to monthly, unsupervised visits, though Tyler still held her at arm's length. The Haydens sent birthday cards, stiff and formal. Mindy had remarried, worked at a nonprofit for child welfare, and had tentatively reconnected with Maya and Josh. Greg had moved back to New York and had partial custody. Ian's documentary had launched his career. He was working on his 5th film, this one about fathers fighting for custody rights. He'd won 2 Emmy Awards. Tyler came with him to the ceremonies, proud in a rented tux, grounding him. On a December afternoon, almost exactly 4 years after the incident, Ian and Tyler walked through Central Park, watching the ice skaters at Woolman Rink. "Dad, do you ever regret it?" Tyler asked suddenly. "Regret what?" "What you did. To Mom and the Haydens. Destroying them." Ian was quiet, considering. Did he regret it? The pain he'd caused, the lives he'd altered, the vengeance he'd unleashed? "I regret that it was necessary," he said finally. "I regret that they put me in a position where I had to choose between protecting you and keeping the peace. But I don't regret protecting you. I'd do it again." Tyler nodded, satisfied. "Good. Because I'm glad you did." They watched the skaters for a while, breath misting in the cold air. "You know what's funny?" Tyler said. "I used to want them to like me so bad. The Haydens. I thought if I was just smarter or better, they'd love me. And now I don't care. I have you. That's enough." Ian pulled his son close, this miraculous kid who'd survived trauma and emerged stronger, kinder, wiser. "You're more than enough, Tyler. You always were." As they left the park, Tyler's hand in his, Ian felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the hollow satisfaction of revenge, but genuine peace. His son was whole. Their relationship was strong. The future was open and full of possibility. Gerald Hayden had asked him once if it was worth it. Standing here, with Tyler laughing about something silly, Ian finally had his answer. Yes. Protecting his son, defending his dignity, standing up for what was right. It was worth everything he'd lost and everything they'd lost. Because in the end, the only thing that mattered was the small hand in his, the trust in his son's eyes, and the knowledge that he'd chosen right when it counted most. The snow began to fall, gentle and soft, covering the city in clean white silence. Ian and Tyler walked home together, father and son, survivors and victors, ready for whatever came next. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.